What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Cashflow podcast. Today we have a great guest in Savannah Arroyo. Sorry, I just said it before, but I was like, how you doing today, Savannah?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on. You're gonna add so much value, and I love your Instagram. You put out a ton of great information, which I think a lot of people could go over and check out and just find value in what you put out, which obviously is the net worth nurse. So make sure go check out her Instagram, and I'm gonna put that in the link below as well in the show notes. But first off, let's just talk about why real estate investing and how'd you get involved in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit of background on me. I'm a registered nurse. I really knew from kind of a young age that I wanted to go into nursing. Really high school, I guess. I went into college really pursuing my bachelor's in nursing, and it graduated with that up in Sacramento around 2013. Then worked in a couple different specialties. Was naturally gravitating towards leadership type positions. I was taking on different process improvement projects and went back to school, and I got my master's degree in nursing leadership and administration. I was really drawn to hospital operations and organization structures and leadership within healthcare. And so relocated down to Los Angeles, California, and worked in a couple different hospitals doing that. And my more recent position, I was the assistant nurse manager for a large organization down here and overseeing the cath lab, specials, GI procedures, all the procedural units. And loved that job, loved the nurses I was working with and techs, and loved the manager. But I had started real estate investing in 2020. And it was really after I had my second daughter that my husband and I were looking for a way to kind of grow our wealth, to increase our net worth, to create passive investments or investments that were offsetting our full-time income. Because I realized after I had my daughter, I was very dependent on my paychecks and had to hand her over to a daycare lady so I could go back to work full-time. And that feeling just was really daunting, discouraging. Didn't like feeling that I wasn't going to have a break from work until I was retired. And so started researching different ways we could build wealth and invest, and stumbled upon real estate for obvious reasons. It's one of the best strategies out there to grow wealth. And within 2 years since we started, I was able to leave my full-time position. And now I work in the hospital 1 day a week and focus primarily on real estate and building my business net worth nurse.
Wow, that is awesome. I love that. And, just you mentioning that, you stumbled across real estate investing just by researching it. And a lot of people, they have someone that has done it, or they stumble across someone that is doing it. And that's how they kind of get the information needed to know why real estate investing is so important. How did you educate yourself when you were doing research to look more into it and say, hey, this is where we should take our business?
Yeah, definitely. We didn't have any friends or family or anyone that was really doing it. And so for us, it was educating ourselves through books, podcasts, different things like that. YouTube. We were watching YouTube videos all the time, learning how to underwrite properties, what cash flow was, what passive income was, learning about debt pay down and all that stuff. I mean, we really had no idea. And so educating ourselves really from the ground up with different financial principles and how to get debt for real estate deals and all that sort of stuff. So podcasts, books, and YouTube were huge for us there. And then really to get started, we were hooked, and we're like, yes, let's do it all in real estate. This is our key to our freedom. We set some goals, and we didn't have any money to start investing. And so we had to get really creative with financing our deals. And so for our first real estate deal, we pulled out a second mortgage on our home. So this was something that we didn't tell any of our friends and family that we were doing, because we didn't, we felt like they might talk us out of it or say it wasn't a good idea or ask questions about that piece. Because, according to kind of the general public, like the goal is to pay off your house, not take out more debt on it. But when you start diving into real estate and learning how people are building wealth in it, you realize, oh, this is how they're doing it. They're leveraging mass amounts of debt to go and buy cash flowing assets that are loan pay down, increasing your net worth. And so we did that for our first deal. And then we were ready to do more and ended up pulling from our retirement accounts under the CARES Act and doing a lot of different creative financing things. And then that's kind of how we got into syndications, which is people pooling together together their resources to go out and buy bigger deals like apartment complexes. So now we partner with passive investors, people who want to very much passively invest in real estate investing, but still get all the great rewards and returns, not do any of the work. And so they partner with us in the real estate syndications, and we go out and acquire these multifamily buildings, own and operate them throughout the lifetime of the investment.
That's great. Just to touch on one thing you said before, I think that's the whole debate of good debt versus bad debt. People don't understand that real estate investing, when you get debt on a property, that's actually good debt. You know, that property is going to be paying for your mortgage and hopefully paying you even more. So when you guys first started, was your husband on board too? Were you guys at the same, level?
So I was on maternity leave, so I had a lot more time than him, right? Gotcha. So I was binging mass amounts of podcasts and reading books. And so he would get home from work and I'm like, oh, you got to check this out. You got to read this. And he's like, whoa. Like, let me kind of catch up. But no, immediately kind of once we started researching more about it and looking at the numbers and where we were at and the amount of freedom that it could provide in our lives, like we were both hooked. And so from there, it took us really sitting down and getting specific of our goals of being like, okay, where do we see ourselves in 5 years? Like, where are we waking up? What are we doing on a day-to-day? What projects are we working on? How involved are we in our daughters' lives? Like, how much money do we have coming in every month from our real estate investments? And then setting that 5-year goal, it was like, okay, so where do we need to be at 3 years to make that happen, at 1 year to make it happen? And then we've always taken kind of a team approach to building this life. I mean, it's the same as having kids together. It's a partnership of learning how to kind of parent together. So we're doing that with our real estate investments as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And obviously you're doing something right now with all your success. I think a huge benefit for the listeners right now, just in real estate in general, is you were able to leave your job, your full-time job, and work 1 day a week so you can be closer to your family and be able to, take your kids, to school or do whatever you want to spend more valuable time with them, which is huge. Time freedom is a huge benefit of real estate investing. So I commend you on that. That's awesome that you were able to get there so fast, because you said you started in 2020, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is awesome. So congratulations to you guys. Let's go ahead and talk about your whole portfolio real quick. So what kind of do you have, and how's your business structured?
Yeah, definitely. So we went out initially and bought 2 single family homes with that down payment. We pulled like about 60, 70,000, used it as down payment on 2 single family turnkey homes over in Atlanta, Georgia. We actually just sold one of those last week. So that was our first full circle investment. It's a mouthful. Yeah. So that we did that one. But then after we bought those 2 deals, the middle of 2020, we closed on our first apartment complex, a 12 unit up in Oregon in November 2020. And then we did an 18 unit and a 24 unit in spring 2021. And then we got under contract for a 36 unit at the end of 2021, and we're closing on that in a couple weeks.
Wow, that is you. So you guys haven't been doing much lately. No, I'm just kidding. That is awesome. That is awesome. So I know you said that when you were working, your full-time job, you said it was in California. Is that where you live now?
Yes, I live in Los Angeles, California.
Got you. Okay, so all of your investing has been out of state?
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so what's the, were you scared at first? Like, were you and your husband nervous? Because you said your first 2 properties from that from the money you took out of your home were in Atlantic, Georgia. Obviously, that's on the other side of the country. How was that? Did you have people in place? Did you have to build a team? How'd that go for you guys?
Yeah. So originally when we got into real estate investing and we were looking at different strategies, we really wanted to do the BRRRR method, because with the BRRRR method, for people who don't know, you're going and buying a property really below market value, usually with cash, ideally. And then you're going out and renovating it to push all this equity in it. So you're pretty much doing a flip on it, pushing all this equity into it, getting a renter in there to start paying for the mortgage, refinancing to essentially pull out out all the capital that you put into it originally and then repeating it. So we thought, okay, we don't have any money to start investing in real estate. This is a strategy that we can use to take a fixed amount of capital and kind of keep snowballing it to build a real estate portfolio. So that was our original thought process. So we were looking at BRRRRs across the country in Atlanta. And me, I mean, we had 2 kids under the age of 2. I was going back to healthcare administration at the height of the pandemic as a nurse leader, having to make operational decisions about COVID on a day-to-day basis. And we were trying to buy our first investment property. So we were like, okay, doing a full BRRRR renovation across the country isn't really ideal for us at this point. Like, let's jump in with a couple turnkeys. And so that's how we kind of made the decision to do the turnkeys. But with that, I mean, yes, they're across the country, and we bought, managed, and sold those in the year and a half when we owned them. And we've never been to Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
But that's what you're able to do with technology of, you know, having your phone and applications and software and analyzing your numbers. You don't necessarily need to be there on a day-to-day. So the team that we had in place was definitely our realtor, going out and finding our properties, doing the inspection due diligence, knowing that we weren't local, and then hiring on a property management team who actually, they came with the builders. And so having them really kind of oversee the investment made it fairly easy for us.
Gotcha. Okay. So when you went to, I mean, obviously that is very impressive, being able to do that, not even being to the state or the area where you're investing, which is huge. How did you pick Atlantic, Georgia?
Yeah, we did a lot of different market research. I mean, there's so many great markets out there across the country. For us personally, we had a lot of people and friends and stuff in the film industry here in LA, and they were talking constantly about Atlanta, Georgia, and how the film industry's built up over there. Marvel moved over there, Tyler Perry, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, the CW, Netflix has a huge headquarters there. So all these film people were moving over there. And then not only that, Atlanta had just went through this huge renovation program type thing where the city was pouring mass amounts of money into kind of the rehab of this circle type thing that they have, a community area. So we did a lot of research of just looking at trends, population growth, employment trends, and then vacancy rate. Those are really the top 3 metrics that we look at: population growth, employment trends, and vacancy rate. And so that's really what we're looking at when we're looking at markets.
Wow, that's great. I think that's a huge tip for the listeners here if they want to go out of state, because right now, obviously, you're in California. That's an extremely expensive market. So if you wanted to get into there, the barrier to entry is so much higher. So you went to a market that, yes, it's lower cost, but it's still on the up and coming, and it has a lot going on right now, which is very valuable.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So moving on. So after you did these 2 deals, you guys, you and your husband were like, all right, we got this. Let's go ahead and keep going. So then you start going into a little bit higher of units, which what was your next investment then?
The 12 units. So then we moved into syndications after that.
Okay,
so naturally it kind of evolved because we were getting... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, so can you just explain a little bit what a syndication is?
Oh yeah, definitely. So from there, it was kind of to the, like I mentioned, not having any capital to keep going out and buying real estate. And we realized that you could go out and do it through syndication. So people pulling together resources. And because we had bought those 2 homes in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were going to work and talking about it with our friends and family, they were shocked, wait, what? You're investing in real estate? And they were very interested in it. Even going to the hospital and people are like, oh, what are you doing on the weekend? Going up to Oregon to see an apartment complex. So we started talking about real estate a lot. That's kind of what you do when you are passionate about it, but also want to kind of create partnerships with people as well. And so we became very vocal about what we were doing in real estate. I started Net Worth Nurse on Instagram and all the social media accounts that I had. And we were really diving into the syndication route, and we were going to raise money to go and buy apartment complexes. For us, moving into this different strategy, we did invest heavily in a coaching mentorship program. So that's something that we did when we made that transition. Primarily, so I think coaching programs are good for two reasons. One, they give you the accountability that you need to kind of take your first step. If you need some kind of hand holding in that piece, my husband and I didn't need that. We're action takers. We will be grinding at night. Like we're hustlers. We'll get it done. We know what we need to do type thing. So we didn't really need it for the accountability piece. We really wanted it for the underwriting piece. So we wanted to learn how to underwrite multifamily deals, how to take all of the income and expenses into consideration, how to bring investors into it, and all the intricacies of weaving them into an acquisition of a multifamily deal. And then also the legalities that go into raising money from private investors and carrying out a multi-million-dollar investment. And so we wanted to know, going out there and handling friends and family and colleagues' money, that we were doing everything in our power to prevent any type of thing from going wrong. And so working with a coach who had tons of experience, really good insight, resources, that was something that we did invest in early on in it. And it gave us the confidence to go out there and really start submitting offers on these deals.
I love self-education, and I will always recommend it. So I think that's awesome that you did that. How difficult was it to getting adjusted to, when you invest in these deals now, it's not just your capital. So, if you do fail, it's not just on you, it's on your, your family, your friends, and other people. Did that put a little bit more pressure on?
Definitely. Yes. I was very, very nervous about it at first. Also the marketing piece, because at that point I didn't like to be in front of the camera and doing a bunch of stuff. And now, full blown, like a year later, I've net worth nurse, and I feel like my face is everywhere over that brand, which doesn't get any less cringy, I swear. But it was just kind of, a part of building a business. But handling other people's money it was very nerve wracking at first. So we just started networking and talking to people who do raise money for real estate deals. I read a really good book called Raising Private Capital with Matt Faircloth of De La Rosa Investment Properties. He's great. Him and his wife, Liz Faircloth, she runs Real Estate Investors, which is a huge platform for women in real estate investing. They're just overall they're couple goals for sure in real estate investing. My husband and I met them last year at a conference, and I'm going to be doing a panel with her in a month or so, and I'm really excited about it. But just learning from other people who had done it, and he tells this story in this book where they go out, raise a bunch of money, and something happens with the investment and they get scammed pretty much. And they're in a position where they're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars of their investors' money. And the way that they did it is they took a loss as the operators of it. So they split up their percentage and gave it back to the investors, and then changed a bunch of different things in the deal to restructure it to make their investors whole. And when I heard that, and I realized that there's ways that you can structure these deals for cushion, and you can do conservative underwriting and worst case scenarios. And if you overall go into the underwriting piece very conservatively, that you're creating a lot of cushion and wiggle room for when things do go wrong, because it's not a matter of if they go wrong, it's when. In every real estate deal, there's something that happens that is unexpected, and being prepared for it, like budget wise, with having reserves and operating expenses, is something that we are very focused on in our deals. So we know going out and buying them, that we're going to still deliver returns for our investors.
Yeah. A lot of people say that when you go to flip a house, you always go over. Well, especially in this market where lumber and everything's so expensive, it's bound to have something where, you go over budget or there's something wrong. So I think that is very important to, just be prepared for something that may happen, because even if it doesn't, then you were prepared for it, to say the least. So I do want to talk about, just for people that don't know syndication that well, do you have to put, you as the syndicator, do you have to put money into the deal, and kind of how does that work as your role as far as being a syndicator? Do you find the deal?
Yeah, so it depends. The overall to be a general partner or a GP of a syndication deal or the operating team or sponsorship team, there's a lot of different words for it. So when you start learning about syndications, it can be very confusing. So the general partner team is usually made up of multiple people who have split roles. So the main roles in the general partnership team for a syndication business is one, the who's in charge of acquisition. So going out, finding the property, talking to brokers, getting the deal under contract, getting it through due diligence, getting it to close. Okay. That's the acquisition member. Then you have the asset manager. So in our business, my husband and I have split it up. We did that first deal together, going through it side by side so we could learn all aspects of the business and what each role brings to the table. But then after we did that first deal, it's very time consuming for two people to do every single role in the business. So we split it up. So now my husband is in charge of acquisitions and asset management. So he's finding the deal, talking to brokers. And then it makes sense that he's overseeing the asset throughout the lifetime of the investment because he's the one underwriting it. So he's plugging in all the numbers over there when he's doing the underwriting, making the projections for our investors. So then month to month, quarter to quarter, as we're carrying out this investment, he gets to see how well he's underwritten the deal, what he can take into consideration as he underwrites further. So he does that for our business. And then you usually have your capital raiser, whoever's bringing capital to the deal, which is a big piece of what I do, especially through Net Worth Nurse. And then the investor relations. So communicating to your investors throughout the lifetime of the investment. So for us, we do quarterly updates. So every 3 months, my husband and I are doing a little PowerPoint. We're saying what's going on with the investment, showing the numbers, full access to the financials, very transparent with all of that stuff for our investors. And we give it to them every quarter. And we have a portal where they see all that. And then we send direct deposit to their banking account every 3 months. So they love it. I've had a lot of healthcare professionals invest with me and people at work. And I'll never forget, like one of my first investments that I had some doctors and techs invest with me. They like stopped by my office that first day of the disbursement and was like, oh, I just got my check, like super stoked about it. So I love being able to provide passive investment opportunities to other healthcare professionals because, I mean, that's all my huge passion behind Net Worth Nurse is just a lot of healthcare professionals, especially throughout COVID and nurses were living paycheck to paycheck and just in horrible working conditions and feeling very trapped because they didn't have anything saved for retirement. They didn't know anything about finances and investing. And so a huge passion of mine is now really the education piece behind that. But at the same time, providing investment opportunities for healthcare professionals, nurses, doctors, more people. You don't have to be a healthcare professional to invest in our deal. But being able to provide those opportunities for people is really awesome.
Gotcha. No, I mean, a lot of people don't want to do the work, and that's fine. That is fine. A lot of people want passive income where they can just put their money into something and know that they'll get a return. Like you just said, they will get their money every 3 months and everything will be fine. So, that's a great way to target those people, especially like you said, I have family members that are nurses as well. And it was very hard for them during COVID. And you saw the mental toll it took on them. And the fact that you're doing that's awesome. I think that's a great mission. So with the acquisition, I've heard of an acquisition fee. I've never done it. Is that something that goes along with it? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's really one of the biggest ways that we're making money off of this as the operators of the deal is really through an asset management fee and an acquisition fee. So we've kind of structured it differently for every single one of our deals, taking a different percentage. I've seen operators take zero acquisition fee up until like 4%, which, 4% on a multi-million-dollar deal can be a lot of money. Yeah. Usually the general partnership teams are a handful of people, so you are splitting that. Usually with some operators, but yeah, we've taken, so our first deal, we had an acquisition fee set up for that, but we didn't raise everything that we needed to raise. And so my husband and I actually jumped in that deal investing. And so that's when we started liquidating some of our retirement account to jump in that deal heavily. So we're heavily invested in that first syndication deal. And then we've split up, like sometimes we'll take our acquisition fee and roll it into our percentage ownership of the building. So we've done it that way before as well. And then we've just taken the acquisition fee in total.
And just for people that are wondering, like, why do they get an acquisition fee? It's because they're doing everything. They're putting all their time and they're investing in software so that you can actually make this work, right?
Yeah. Syndications are a beast of a deal. They're a monster. I mean, they take like 3 months to take down, a full 90 days. There's a lot that goes into finding the property, doing the underwriting on it, getting it through due diligence, getting it to close, especially depending on the financing piece of it. Getting financing for it is a huge hurdle. It's the majority. Almost all syndicators I know are taking an acquisition fee.
Yeah, exactly. It's because you deserve it because you're doing so much work. Yeah. I kind of want to transition into the topic of social media. So, I mean, a lot of people obviously know that social media could be a huge key in their business, and obviously it's working for you as well. But can you just kind of talk about the perks of, you're obviously putting out education, and a lot of people can see that you are in the business of real estate, so they can trust you, if you will. It's kind of like a resume, if you will. And can you just talk about, how the benefits of that and what you've seen in your business growth since you've been utilizing social media?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Even like I mentioned in the beginning of this, social media wasn't really big for me, that marketing aspect of it. My whole career is in nursing and administration. So going out and doing marketing through social media was very much out of my comfort zone, and still sometimes is. I have a love-hate relationship with it, honestly, because it is so much work, and the algorithms and the trends change so much that it's like a constantly evolving game to try and catch up, especially, and then even maintaining. I think I have like 6 different social media accounts. So Instagram's my favorite. That's really the one I fall back on, but I am on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. So maintaining all the social media accounts is difficult at times. I did have a VA for a little bit, for about a 3 or 4 month period, just to kind of help with some content production. But it was a little bit difficult of trying to navigate how to relinquish my voice over into something like that, and to kind of give up some of that responsibility, and incorporated a VA into my system. And so I was doing it. We had it down to a really good system of she'd create all the graphics for me on Canva, and then I would go in there and do captions. And so it was still my voice when she was posting it on Instagram. But Reels, the thing with social media is it tells you what you need to do, right? So when Reels started popping off like 6 months ago, I was like, not wanting to do it. Felt like it was a lot like TikTok. Didn't necessarily feel like it would be applicable to what I was doing and what kind of information I was providing. But then I made a commitment to do 30 Reels in 30 days. And I grew my follower account 3,000 in a month, just doing that. And so there's so much power to doing the things that, you don't necessarily want to do. And even when I talk to investors now, or people who want to build a platform, I do tons of like brand consulting and platform building consulting. And I'll have people say like, I just don't really want to do that piece of it. And it's like, yeah, not everyone really does. I don't necessarily love filming Reels all the time and creating that content, but I know that it's a huge piece of my business and that I need to be doing it. And so that's why I do it. But honestly, social media has opened so many, not just the work that goes into it, that can be a little bit daunting, but the doors that it's opened and allowing me to connect with more nurses has been huge. I mean, I have now getting approached by nurses, every single day on social media, saying either how I've encouraged them or supported them, or asking me questions, or asking for coaching or resources and support. And so really kind of harvesting a community within social media has been really amazing to see. I mean, at first when I started posting what I was doing, it was really with the idea of gaining that trust, exactly what you said. I was going to be raising money for real estate deals, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and people needed to trust me. So they needed to see me in front of a camera talking openly about real estate and finances and transactions and numbers. And the more I started doing that and creating that content, I developed a lot of that trust from people that now want to invest with me because I'm a nurse or because I'm a woman or because they've been following me for a long time. And so social media is very important in business.
I could not agree more with everything you just said. It's insane. And honestly, I've been dipping my toes in recently, just like in the past couple weeks, just doing a couple reels too. Oh my gosh, listening to myself talk is just like horrible. I'm just like, no, thank you. But one of my favorite quotes of all time is do what others won't now so you can live how others can't later. And unfortunately, you don't want to do these reels, but by doing it, it grows your business, grows your brand. And obviously it's working for you, and you've amounted to so much success already in just a couple short years since you've started. So social media, I think I hugely agree with, when used the right way, is a perfect tool for building your business, which is awesome. Can we do like maybe just a deal breakdown of one of the properties that you purchased, maybe just from acquisition, one of your acquisitions that you collected people and purchased, and from start to end?
Yeah, definitely. I can do maybe my first deal. Yeah. So the first deal we did, a 12 unit up in Oregon, it was a $1 million price point. So moving into multifamily from single family, when you first start talking to brokers, is a pretty big hurdle because they don't really give you the time of day if they don't see a good track record. And because we didn't have experience in multifamily, it was a little bit difficult having those conversations. So we maybe talked to 50 brokers before we found one that kind of took us seriously. And we were underwriting deals, maybe like, I think we were underwriting like four deals a week, 4 or 5 deals a week, really just to practice and learn and looking in different markets. And we were looking up in Oregon really kind of out of curiosity because I have family up there and just kind of seeing, comparing different markets. And we found a deal off LoopNet, which is where multifamily people joke and say deals go to die. Yeah. But we found a multifamily deal, a 12 unit on LoopNet, $1 million. And we're like, wow, this is getting us decent returns when we were underwriting it. And so we reached out to the broker, and he was Marcus Millichap, young and hungry, mid-20s. So he was new enough to not ask us our experience level. And so we went in and we were like, hey, we like this property, this, that, and the other. If this one isn't available, we're looking for 12 to 20 units, $1 to $3 million in these submarkets in Oregon. And I think because we were so specific on our criteria that he felt like we knew what we were doing, right? Like he felt we were serious, because these brokers deal with people who aren't really serious all day, every day, and they're sending deals and not getting a response. So something that we do that's huge that I highly recommend for newbies is getting back to brokers within 48 hours. So if they send you a deal, even if you don't like it, respond to them and tell them why they don't like it. So, I mean, for us, for example, why we don't like a property. These returns aren't going to work for our investors. The building's too old. If it's above or before 1960s, we're like, maybe too old. We don't like this, that, and the other. So giving some sort of like 1 to 2 liner to your broker of why the property didn't work. Send me, what else do you got, type thing. And so we started doing that. This property ended up sticking. We wrote a personalized letter to the seller, which gave us technically like a $50,000 discount because the offer came in $50,000 higher than us. And he ended up going with our offer because of the personalized letter, which I heard some cities are doing away with these love letters in real estate. And some people will tell you different things about them, but for us, it worked. It was a $50,000 letter. And so we got that first property. We needed to raise $350,000 total. So that was $250,000 for the down payment, 25% down, and $100,000 for repairs, reserves, and all that stuff. Yeah. So started approaching our inner circle of friends and family. So like sent an email out maybe to like 25, 30 people of like, hey, this is kind of what we're doing. We bought a couple single family homes. We want to go buy an apartment complex. Who's in? Maybe 3 people got back to us, I mean, the majority of our friends and family were like, we don't have the money to do it or whatever, and so a couple of them were like, hey, maybe that sounds interesting. So then going from there, trying to figure out the financing of it. And so talking to a lender, we ended up going with a local credit union up in Oregon, but there's a lot of things in these multifamily deals that you kind of do at the same time. So at the same time you're looking for deals, you're always raising money and talking to investors about, because then you can know how much you can go out and buy, right? How much capital you have raised at a given time. So looking at deals, you're always kind of doing the same time that you're raising money. And then you're always doing that at the same time as you're talking to lenders and trying to get on, because the financing process on these deals takes so long that you really need to be doing it from the day you get under contract. I mean, even before you get under contract, you need to be talking to lenders and vetting out different loans,
Yeah.
I guess. So that was kind of how we did that first deal, kind of how we structured it. My husband and I took 20% of the 20% of the deal. So in syndications, general partnership team usually takes like 30%. We took 20% of this deal, left 80% to our investors. So our investors investing in our deal, usually our minimum investment's around $50,000. I've done $25,000 a few times to some like nurses that really want to get in deals, but usually $50,000 gets people into our investments. And then from there, they own a part of the LLC that we're going out and buying the building with. So they're actual owners in the LLC. They have no liability on the loan, no liability really with anything else except for their investment. And then they're getting really, really great returns. So that's kind of the overall structure of that first deal.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love the tip that you're saying to respond to, brokers within 24 hours, just because they know that you're alert and they're checking them. And it seems as if you're interested and you really want to buy something if these deals aren't working out. So I think that's huge. And just to point out the whole LoopNet thing, which I think it is a lot. Everyone says that's where deals go to die. I had a podcast, Michael Putman, Road to 1,000 Units on Instagram. He said he found 2 of his properties on LoopNet, and he's got like 78 total units right now. So it's like deals are everywhere. So I think that's awesome. Talking about like, how do you find deals? Do you do off market much? I heard Crexy is a pretty good one for commercial. And then also where you find them, and can you also talk about the difference between value when you go below 4 units and over 5 units?
Yeah. So really finding the deals. So we've done all 4 apartment complexes with that same broker that got us that first deal.
That's great.
Yeah. So we were just really like, he saw us really professional communication, really prompt, very responsive, really kind of just goal solution oriented, because hurdles happen, through the closing process where things come up and you have to dive into them, and you can be a problem solver or be, kind of hesitant with that stuff and difficult with it. And we're just, we're always solution oriented. So we're always trying to figure out how to get through things. And so our broker really appreciated that about us. And so after we did that first one, he's like, all right, what's next? And we were like, oh, that was our first deal. And he was like, no way, that was your guys' first deal. And we're like, yeah, but like we have more investors now, proof of concept, right? The next deal kind of starts coming after. And so we were like, let's do another one. And then he sent us those 2, that 18 unit and 24 unit, kind of at that same time. So we just kind of rolled the momentum of the capital raising and all the efforts that we were doing to close on those 2 deals at the spring 2021. So really having a good broker and good broker relationships is how we have found all our deals, and really kind of my experience of working with other people too. I've realized like networking is the new currency, right? Like having those relationships with people, especially in real estate, is so it's pivotal really in your success. So really what we do is we are always telling people what we're doing and what we're looking for. And this is something that Brandon Turner always talked about on his podcast of like, he is the mobile park guy. Like everyone knows when they think mobile parks of this certain classification, they're thinking of him, right? And so when we would talk to our brokers, we would have very clear criteria of what investment properties we were looking for. We look for very strong value adds because we're flipping these over like a 3 to 6 year period and cashing out our investors. So that's kind of our goals and what our investors are expecting. So we're looking for strong value add deals. So value add in multifamily is really opportunities with buildings below low rent, really mismanaged by the previous owners. So we're going in and buying properties that need a decent amount of work. And some of them maybe not even a lot of work, but the manager completely mismanaged them, and we're able to go in there and raise rents 9.1% year after year without doing a lot of work. One of our buildings we're able to do that on. It's craziness. But most of the time, one of our other buildings, we replaced the roof, all the windows, sliding glass doors, all the toilets, all the new water efficient features. And then that one we're raising rent slowly on too. So ways that you can force equity and appreciation into real estate is huge. I mean, that's how you're making money. And so a lot of people say you make money in real estate when you buy the deal, because you want to buy it at a price where okay, if you add this much value to it, you can sell it after for this much. So that's really what we're looking for in terms of our properties. And then kind of the biggest difference between going from 4 to 5 units, the lending is a little bit different. The classifications of having a quad, you can get different financing than opposed to mid or smaller multifamily. 5 to 12 units are even different, and then 12 and up is kind of a different story. And then even from there, then when you get $1 million and up, then you can get into agency debt, which is like Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae agency loans. So financing is still like something that I'm always constantly learning. Like every deal we've done, our financing different, which has been a huge headache. But at the same time, we have this like huge wealth of knowledge of like different ways to finance and structure deals. I mean, before you and I hopped on this call, you were talking about seller financing. Like that is such a creative way in real estate investing. And we tried to do that on our last deal. This 36 unit, they owned outright because they owned it for 50 plus years. And the loan terms are just like have been crazy because of COVID, and interest rates are climbing. And so we were trying to really push seller financing for that deal, but they want to do a 1031 and get out of it. So it didn't work, but that's a huge strategy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand like why you want to go in the bigger unit count, like 32 unit, whatever it may be. Well, it's a big reason is because if you have 32 units and you raise rent on 32 units $50 each. I mean, I'm not going to do the math in my head because I probably can't, but it's it raises the value, and over 5 units, the multifamily is based off of the how much money is getting brought in after expenses. So it's that's how you create and force that appreciation and equity so that you can then cash out, like you were saying. Is that the goal for your husband and you, is to keep the properties but just cash out the investors that did invest initially?
So not necessarily. We have talked about doing that for one of our deals, but they're all structured a little bit differently. We do them with the goal of exiting within 3 to 6 years, like I said. And our goal is to really get our investors 100% return on investment. So we're looking at a 2x equity multiple, which is pretty much 100% ROI, return on investment. So if our investor invests $50,000 in one of our deals, our goal at 5 years is to get them that $50,000 back plus another $50,000 on top of it. So they're doubling their money. Awesome. So that's really what drives our numbers when we're looking at investments. But there's so many different ways that you can structure it. And as you start doing more real estate deals and start creating those relationships and connections with people, like the doors just open, and then so many more opportunities present themselves to you. I mean, I have like a couple of different like partnership opportunities where people have brought different real estate strategies to me. Like for instance, short-term rentals is huge right now. I have a lot of friends that are in that, and I definitely want a piece of that. So I have a couple of investors who have invested passively in some of my deals who have large chunks of capital, $400,000, $500,000. And they're like, oh, I don't really know what to do with it. Can you go out and buy me something with it? And so I'm actually in the process of taking some large chunks of capital and going out and buying short-term rentals for investors, and then having it as a vacation house for them, maybe even me too, depending how I work the contract. But then cash flowing for them, and then me as well for overseeing that investment throughout, over asset management pretty much. So once you start diving into real estate, so many opportunities present themselves of ways to create money. I mean, the biggest thing for me of just diving into this network and community of people and going to conferences and attending meetups and Zooms and all that stuff is like the networking piece of learning about what other people are doing. You know, I love jumping on investor lists for different deals. So I have a bunch of friends that are running and operating multifamily syndications. I'm on all their email lists, and I love doing that because now I can see what kind of deals they're doing, what kind of returns they're promising to their investors, what markets they're in, how they're doing on them. And that for me is so insightful to think like, okay, am I on the right track? You know, I had a friend who just sent me a storage unit deal, and that was one of my first times seeing the returns on them. And I'm like, man, that is just a crazy different strategy and so much cash on cash that you can get in those. So I just love, it's hard, you know, you want to stay focused on what you're doing, especially as you're getting started, to roll up the momentum, but just know that, you know, the doors will open as you start investing for sure.
Exactly. And I 100% agree with that. It's the shiny object syndrome. You know, you want to get, you know, a little bit of everything. And, you know, if you just stay focused like you're doing, now you're probably at a point where you have all these multifamily properties now that you can afford to go and let's go try a storage unit or let's do something else. And that's when you can kind of take a pivot. But as far as growing your business, like, do you ever plan to like keep any buy and holds and just keep them for a long period of time? Or is the goal to just build a syndication business to keep flipping and, you know, every 3 to 5 years, get that money out and just do it again?
That's such a good question. And I have never been asked that. And I've been on over 100 podcasts. I love that question. You know, we go back and forth with us. For us, it's always looking at the return on investment on our deals. We're constantly analyzing them. So even those buy and holds that we had in Atlanta, ideally we were like, oh, we can hold on to these. These will be decent cash flowing. But the way that they were cash flowing after the last year, we were pretty much just breaking even on them. We weren't, and now that we've sold them, we've done a full analysis on them. And although we've gotten 300% return on investment on those properties, we had like a negative 6% cash on cash return. It's crazy to look at. Oh my goodness. But those, you know, we were putting back money into them every month. Just different things were going on, we were like, we got to sell them. We need to get rid of them. That like we can take this money and put it in something way better that'll be getting us better returns. So the goal is definitely to have some smaller multifamily. So we've talked about when we cash out on that first multifamily to take that big chunk of money that we're going to be getting and go out and buy our own smaller multifamily deal. But there's so much to be said about leveraging debt and leveraging other people's money to go out and buy bigger real estate deals. So it just kind of depends on the deal.
Yeah, a lot of people will tell you that in order to scale and reach levels that are, you know, you would think untouchable by yourself, you have to partner because, you know, at some point you'll run out of capital or, you know, whatever it may be. But partnership seems like it's a lot of, you know, it's led to a lot of success in your business as well. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, definitely. And that was something we were weary about when we went into it, because my husband and I were just doing it ourselves. So we were like, we don't really need to partner with anyone necessarily. We're tag teaming this together. We're bouncing ideas off each other. But once we started networking and learning about how syndications operate, we realized, okay, we need to start diving in and networking with more people. And then, I've mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast, but like going out and telling people what you're doing on a regular basis, like through social media or even when you're at work or with your family and friends, like talking about like, I'm investing in real estate now. Like, this is what I'm doing. You know, I'm buying short-term rentals in Florida, or I'm buying multifamily deals up in Oregon, or I'm buying turnkey properties in Atlanta, Georgia. Like just telling people and speaking it into existence, you attract the people in your lives to do the deals. So even attending meetups, like I was very reserved going into those and not necessarily knowing what to say. And then I realized as I was going out and just telling people what I'm doing with nurses, how I want to syndicate, capital raise, do multifamily deals, then you start attracting these partners to your life or people approaching you like, oh, hey, I heard you want to do this. Like, this is something I'm working on. Maybe we can join forces. And then they kind of just, the opportunities present themselves to you. I mean, even like, social media and attending Zoom meetups, like offering value to people like newbies. I've had a couple people do that to me. And I brought on my COO and net worth nurse, was just a nurse that reached out to me from Instagram and was like, I love what you're doing. Let's join forces. And he kind of started building some stuff. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I need you on my team. You're my COO. Let's do this. So
that's great.
just kind of, going out there and telling people what you're doing, it'll attract the networking piece that is huge.
Exactly. 100%. I love that. And all of the guests that I've had on this podcast so far, not many, but 14 as of right now, they're all from social media, and it's all from building relationships. And, I think a huge thing you said is add value, because, you can't go expect someone to give, their time, their energy, their whatever it may be, finances, whatever it may be, if you don't add value. So I think that's a huge thing. What would you say that maybe someone just starting off doesn't have much capital right now, but wants to start maybe doing syndications? How do you add value to someone as far as someone that's experienced, and get a hold of someone and just say, look, I'm serious. I want to do this. How do I get it done?
Yeah, capital raising is big. I've worked with a couple different people and investors in my deal who have brought me capital or different referrals, or wanted to get into that and learn how to do it. And I've brought them on as partners in my deals for some of my syndications. And or some people who have wanted to go out and do their own, and so they'll passively invest in one of my deals and then see how I run it, what kind of communications. I'll hop on additional calls with them to kind of explain anything, and then they go out and do their own deals. So for me, the biggest, motivation of someone coming to me wanting to learn, and me being willing to offer them advice is really hopping on a call. I love talking to people and learning about their goals. And then if I feel like they're aligned and they're wanting to kind of do something similar, and we could potentially work together in some sort of realm of, maybe they could bring capital to a deal, or just go out and maybe find a deal is big. I have a couple people who are very big in certain markets that think they, want to potentially bring a deal to us, which is cool. I love that. That's always awesome. So, and maybe just talking to people about like what their pain point is. I mean, everyone in real estate, no matter how successful they are, they're dealing with some sort of pain point and something in their business or in their real estate that they're struggling with. It could be social media, it could be marketing, it could be finding deals, raising money, whatever. And if you can add value to that person through that pain point, then yeah, you're in.
I love it. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Savannah. You have been nothing but just dropping knowledge bombs right now on this podcast, which is awesome. And I think you've added a ton of, education to these first, newer investors. I have 7 units. I would call myself a newer investor too. And, just bouncing ideas off each other, and you just telling us your story and education has just helped a ton. And I think a lot of listeners are going to get a lot of value out of this. But we do have a couple questions left. One of the first ones being is, where did you find your education? I know we talked about YouTube University and all that, but as far as let's look at it this way, since you kind of already answered it. Would you say for someone just starting, would you say go network or go read or go educate yourself and read books? And what order would you do that?
Educate yourself first, because you'll start going into these real estate events and hear a lot of terms that you have no idea what people are talking about. Even now, sometimes I'll go to some high level. I'm learning about funds right now, and I'm like hearing terms that I'm like, what the hell is this stuff? So really kind of educating yourself, like basic, podcasts are huge. Just listening to people talk about real estate and terms will start to sink in about financing and investors. I mean, listening to this, you probably learned about syndications. Yes. So education first, and then I think you'll be able to bring a little bit more when you start going to those networking events. But I think a lot of networking events are geared towards education, luckily. So I think you can hop into some of those as a newbie too.
Great. And since we just talked about it, if anyone could bring value to you and your husband in your business, what would that be?
So right now, the biggest thing that I'm focusing on in my business is potentially starting a fund. So really starting to educate myself and really learn about what the intricacies are of doing that. So really my biggest priority is learning about that. I'm thinking about going to a conference in Vegas next month about that. So anyone who has any sort of insight or knowledge about how the fund process works, like that'd be huge.
Great. That's awesome. And then where can people find you?
Net Worth Nurse. So you can find me under The Net Worth for Instagram. Otherwise, it's Net Worth Nurse on all other social media handles. So LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. You can find me under Net Worth Nurse. I'm very active on social media. It's my favorite way to connect with other people, with investors, with healthcare professionals. We have an amazing website, networthnurse.co. Tons of free resources on there. We have blogs, videos, podcasts, episodes. We have some products. We have courses for newbies, and not even just real estate. We have basic financial net worth trackers, get out of debt payment plan things, tons of stuff on there. So if you're interested, want some more resources and education on where to get started, networthnurse.co, and reach out to me. I love connecting with other investors, people wanting to get started. I'm more than happy to have a call.
Great. No, that's awesome. I have a question since you said that. Have you found that a website helped your business?
Yes, definitely 100%. So my evolution of my website was really because I was raising capital for syndication deals. So as I was going out there and talking to healthcare professionals and other nurses and doctors about what I was doing, none of them really knew what syndications were. And so they started asking me the same questions over and over. You know, what's the structure look like? What kind of returns can I expect? How does it work? How did the payouts work? And anytime I would get multiple questions, I'd write a blog about it. So I have I think 30 different blogs on my website, a bunch of different videos. I have a doodle video that sketches out what a syndication looks like. It's my hub for my investor portal. It's for people to really get to know me, my business, everything that we're doing, for Net Worth Nurse, as well as Willow Investment Group. That's my real estate investment company. So it's really my hub for education and resources. When anyone asks questions, almost everything that I'm directing them to is on my website.
Perfect. Well, I will make sure to put your website and your social medias in the show notes so people go down there and follow her. Her content is absolutely amazing. And thank you so much, Savannah, for being on. Thank you for taking the time and adding all this value to these listeners and myself. And super excited to see where your business goes and how it grows.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.